All right, let's dive right into this. Today, we're tackling an absolute beast of an exam, and honestly, one of the most fascinating systems in the world. We're going to demystify the Central Superior Services Examination, or as you probably know it, the CSS. Now, this isn't just your standard test, it's literally the gateway to Pakistan's permanent bureaucratic elite. So, in this explainer, we're going to take that massive, intimidating rulebook and transform it into a clear, step-by-step strategy. Let's get started.
So, what does it actually take to join that bureaucratic elite? Well, to become a BPS 17 officer and genuinely have a hand in shaping the nation's governance, you've got to survive what is, without a doubt, one of the most rigorous and fiercely competitive gauntlets on the planet. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of highly educated candidates stepping up every single year, but only a tiny, tiny fraction makes it through. You can't just read books and hope for the best. You need a bulletproof strategy.
And that strategy. It all revolves around one specific number, 1,500. That's the total number of marks on the board. And you've got to conquer them to win this massive strategic game. The whole thing is split between a colossal 1,200-mark written examination and a final 300-mark interview. Every single mark matters.
Okay, here is our syllabus for today's explainer. First, we'll look at what the CSS actually is. Then we'll break down the 5-stage gauntlet, unpack the written arsenal, talk about strategizing your optional subjects, and finally lay out a rock-solid 12-month battle plan.
Part 1. What is the CSS, the gateway to influence? Let's set the stage and look at why this exam commands so much national ambition.
Passing this exam unlocks something incredibly rare. We're talking unparalleled economic stability, immense societal prestige, and of course, the profound responsibility of honest public service. Successful candidates get appointed to coveted government officer posts at the basic pay scale 17. This spans across major service groups. Think police, customs, foreign services, the whole shebang. Just imagine having a direct hand in drafting the laws and managing the daily civil operations of the country. It is, quite literally, a career of profound influence.
Moving on to Part 2, the 5-stage gauntlet, your trials to success. Let's look at the exact sequence of mandatory trials every single candidate has to face.
You have to survive this exact 5-step sequence. It kicks off with the MPT. That's a multiple-choice preliminary screening test they added back in 2022 just to filter the massive pool of candidates. Clear that, and you step into the real heavy hitter, the written examination. Next up is a rigorous medical test to check your physical fitness, followed by a deeply intense psychological test that assesses your mental and behavioral traits. And if and only if you make it through all of that, you unlock the final boss.
The Viva Voce, this is the oral interview. And man, the weight of this final hurdle is immense. It carries 300 marks. This panel is going to deeply test your moral character, your intelligence, your alertness, and your leadership potential. Here's the catch. To pass, you absolutely have to score at least a 33%, so 100 out of 300 marks. And here's the brutal reality of the CSS. If you fail this interview, even if you had perfectly brilliant written scores, you're completely out, no exceptions.
Part 3. The written arsenal. Mastering compulsory subjects. This is where we get into the absolute core of the exam, that 1,200-mark written portion where the vast majority of candidates either make it or break it. So, think of the written exam as a tale of two halves. On one side, you've got 600 marks of compulsory subjects. These come with very rigid, unforgiving rules and require a strict 40% passing grade. On the other side, you have 600 marks of optional subjects. This is where things get interesting because you have the flexibility to choose from 7 different groups, and the passing threshold drops just a bit to 33%.
Let's look at those 6 compulsory subjects that make up your first 600 marks. There's no getting out of these. You've got English essay, English precise, general science and ability, current affairs, Pakistan affairs, and Islamic studies. And listen, I cannot stress this enough. Failing even one of these papers completely disqualifies your entire CSS attempt. Boom, done. But there is a fascinating little game mechanic built into the general knowledge group that acts as a bit of a lifeline. Papers 3, 4, and 5, so that's general science, current affairs, and Pakistan affairs, are actually passed collectively. What does that mean? It means you don't necessarily need exactly 40 marks in every single one of them. You just need a combined aggregate of 120 marks out of 300 across the 3. So, you could score a 30, a 40, and a 50, and you'd still survive the round. All right, part 4, strategizing optionals, the 600-mark framework. Moving into the second half of the written exam, this is where your personal strategy truly gets tested. You have to select exactly 600 marks from 7 different groups, and you need to be smart about this. Don't just follow rumors, use a clear, objective analysis. Check the syllabus length, pull the past 10 years of papers. Are the examiner's questions straightforward, or are they super twisted? Look at historical scoring trends. Be completely honest about your personal interest in the topic. But above all else, you need to find the overlap. Finding overlap is honestly a massive strategic advantage. It's basically a study hack. Take international relations, for example. It overlaps heavily with the compulsory current affairs and Pakistan affairs papers, sometimes by up to 50%. That means you can study the material once and literally score points across multiple different exams. It radically reduces your overall workload. Finally, part 5, the 12-month battle plan, a beginner's roadmap. To actually pull this off, you need a highly disciplined, actionable battle plan.
Look, you cannot cram for the CSS. Pacing is absolutely everything. Take your first 2 months just to finalize those optionals and really understand the syllabus boundaries. By month 3, you have to start current affairs. Why? Because the examiner pulls questions from a full rolling 12-month window. If you start that prep late, it is a fatal trap. Then dedicate months 4 through 6 to intense, focused English essay practice. And save those final months for full mock exams.
Speaking of the English essay, here is a massive wake-up call for you. Writing without feedback is not preparation. It is practice of mistakes. I love that quote. You absolutely have to get your essays assessed by someone qualified. A mentor, a senior, maybe even structural AI tools. The CSS isn't a memory test. It evaluates your analytical depth and how well you can connect ideas. If you're just writing in a vacuum without feedback, you're literally just reinforcing your own bad habits. And keep in mind, the stakes are so high. By law, you are restricted to a maximum of only 3 attempts in your entire lifetime. Plus, you generally have to be between 21 and 30 years old to even apply. If you sit down for even a single paper, boom, that counts as a consumed attempt. You just cannot afford to go in underprepared.
So if there's one thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this. The CSS is an analytical puzzle, not a memory test. If you study the actual boundaries of the syllabus, if you use that overlap strategy to your advantage, pace yourself over a full 12 months, and get consistent feedback on your writing, this seemingly impossible gauntlet becomes totally manageable.
The roadmap is right here in your hands. The boundaries are clear, and the rules of the game are set. Becoming a BPS 17 officer is a massive, life-changing commitment to honest public service and the nation's development. So with all that said, what's your very first strategic move going to be?